Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it. Hi there, I'm Geoff Moonen, one of the two hosts of Fun and Games podcast on the Certain POV network, where every other Friday, Matt and I and the occasional guest talk about various aspects of gaming's past, present, culture, future, certain genres, certain ideas and evolutions, and this show is part of that network. And today I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite games of all time, and that is Katamari Damacy for the PS2. Katamari Damacy was released in 2004, and every time I think of that, how long ago it came out, I feel a little older, but that's time for you. It's a little bit of a mouthful of a title, but I think it suits. It sort of translates from Japanese, sort of Katamari means like clump or clod or just a big bunch of stuff. And Damacy means like spirit or soul or like the spirit of. So you could translate it to like clump soul or the spirit of togetherness. Clump spirit meaning more like school spirit or team spirit. But none of this sounds quite right in English and really doesn't sell the game properly, so once you get past the oddness of the title, it actually kind of primes you pretty well for the game. It was created by a small team at Namco, created by Keita Takahash, and it had four main principles in mind: novelty, ease of understanding, enjoyment, and humor. And those all shine through brilliantly. There is a beautiful simplicity in the game, and in interviews, Takahashi says that he proactively ignored any calls from higher-ups to make the game more complicated. The game itself is sort of a puzzle action game. It's sort of a quirky snowball simulator. You have your Katamari, which is this little colorful ball that anything smaller than the ball will stick to the ball. Anything bigger, it doesn't. So you roll up small objects which accumulate mass on your Katamari. Now it's bigger. So you can roll up slightly bigger things, and so on, and so on, and so on, until whatever goal of that particular level or mission is. You reach a certain size. And all of these, the reason you're making the ball bigger, the reason you're making your Katamari bigger is so that they can be turned into stars in the sky. I'll get into why in a moment. The missions are pretty straightforward. You're either trying to make the largest star possible within a time limit. You start off at a certain size and you need to get past a certain goal within whatever time limit you have. Or you're trying to make a constellation and you're rolling up as much of a certain particular thing as possible. Whether it's crabs to make Cancer, whether it's girls or female things to make Virgo, whether it's swans to make Cygnus, that kind of idea. Fish for Pisces. There's a couple other level types, but they happen like maybe once or twice. Those are the two main ideas. And as your Katamari gets bigger, the perspective shifts in a very dramatic sort of way during gameplay. And you can lose items by crashing into things, so there's a little bit of strategy and evasion as well. You can't just roll around all willy-nilly. And the controls are very straightforward. You pretty much just use the two joysticks on your PlayStation controller to get around. It's kind of like left hand, right hand. You push both of them forward, you move forward. You move the one way or the other, and you're kind of twisting and going. You can kind of shake the sticks back and forth to do like a charge up, so you can do it super fast. And you click the sticks in, and you immediately do a 180. There's a few other buttons, but I've never used them. And that's part of the joy of its ease of understanding. There's a lot of games that seem very friendly, but you then try to give it to somebody who doesn't play a lot of games or maybe someone younger, and there's too many buttons. But the idea of push stick, move ball is surprisingly universal. It's pretty nice. And there's a little bit of like item finding involved. Like, yes, there's the constellation levels where you get certain kinds of things, but there's also little cosmetic items, one hidden in every level as a present. The game itself, while that might sound like simple gameplay, one of the big things about this game is its personality. There is so much personality in this game. From the word go, from the title screen, you're already playing the game. You, in order to start a new file or to select your old one, you have to roll the Katamari over it. You don't need to aim too well. It's very much like left, right, forward, just sort of four directions, so super easy. But You see your character, you see the ball, you see that you roll up things and pick them up. It's already there. And it starts off in a very minimalist setting. You are rolling up the Namco logo to do it, and it has a beautiful piece of music playing. You cannot talk about this game without talking about the music. The lead composer was Yuo Miyake, and in sort of a way to fight against the idea that video game music was no longer memorable in the way that it was in the chiptune era, he wanted to create a very distinct melody, and he did. Oh, did he ever. You may know the music without having ever played the game or seen it, and the title screen is actually just a recording of Miyake singing that theme. No instruments, nothing. There's a point where it kind of overlaps on himself, but that's about it. It is absolute bare bones minimalist, from the title screen or from the file select screen, you are getting a little microcosm of the game itself. And the music is beautiful. The genres involved have a lot of jazz influence, but there's pop, there's some samba, there's even chiptune, and that main melody will sometimes feature strongly in a piece of music or show up a little bit here and there. And there's a lot of different vocalists that are brought in, well-known Japanese vocalists, and I think he tried to hire a bunch that were very talented and well-known, but hadn't been doing anything big at that moment. So I think he caused a renaissance for several of them. And because of the way the game itself is, having vocal tracks over it actually isn't all that distracting. It's kind of fun, and you find yourself humming along with them very easily. And like I said, the fact that singular motif builds, grows, evolves is very much in line with the way the game is. And there's a lot of very intentional choices. The graphics are not the best, even by PS2 2004 standards. The models of characters are very intentionally blocky, limited animations. It feels very intentional so that it doesn't tax other aspects too much. The reason why you have those perspective shifts is okay, we can only show so much, now you're too big, and it shifts. But it still all wraps itself nicely. The sound effects are cartoonish but distinct. There is a sound effect for when you successfully roll up an object. That's kind of a little chirpy sound, like a squishy chirp sound that's hard to imitate or describe. That doesn't seem natural, but it's quick, and it's very satisfying to hear if you've been stuck at a certain size for a while and you suddenly found some things you can roll up. The style of the game even goes to level select, and even the failure game over screen is very cool, and it's worth seeing at least once. There is a bit of a challenge to the game, but you may play the entire thing and never see it. I recommend checking it out if that's the case. As far as the story goes, there is a small human storyline that kind of plays between big levels, but it has little bearing on gameplay, but it is a fun little diversion, and it kind of shows the cosmic scale. As far as characters go, the main event is the king of all cosmos, the flamboyant father figure that foists his folly upon you to fix his fault in the stars. He is the reigning ruler of the sky, of the cosmos, celestial, what have you. But one night, he drunkenly breaks everything. And so he calls his son, the prince of all cosmos, you, who has no lines of dialogue in the game at all, but he charges you with remaking all of the stars and gives you the Katamari to do it. That is why you are rolling this ball around. That is why you're making stars, to fix the king's mistake. But he's just so charming and flashy. But the king sets the boundaries of the level, the time parameters and size. He assesses and judges your efforts and is the only speaking character in gameplay, during gameplay. There's the human cutscenes, there's dialogue there, but as far as during the game, he will occasionally, depending upon what you roll up, he may comment on it, or he may he'll let you know how long things are. He may sometimes, when you reach certain sizes, let you know new areas you can get to, or to hide loading times will just sort of make everything about him for just a moment. His dialogue is an absolute delight. He speaks in a royal we and has an otherworldly noblesse oblige about everything around him. He is style points alone for the game, but the rest of it's beautiful as well. As far as the gameplay and the overall assessment, one could argue the game is a little short and maybe a little repetitive. There is mostly just one major location you keep returning to level after level, no matter what size you're making, whether you start within a house or you're in the neighborhood, the house leads to that neighborhood, or the world around you. It all just sort of grows and grows. But you start in different locations within that, at different starting sizes and with ever-increasing goals and challenges. And item location isn't, a lot of it can be the same, but sometimes things are moved around. So you learn the space nicely. And by the time you reach the final stage, making the moon, you are going from less than human-sized to rolling up entire land masses as the fully arranged version of that main theme plays. The sense of scale and growth is very potent and a wonderful payoff. You can play through the entire game in a weekend afternoon if you succeed the first few times with each level. It's not that long. And for the credits, you roll the moon along the surface of the earth to roll up as many countries as you can as a beautiful song plays. And the lyrics reiterate that we are not many differing factions, but a single beautiful star in space. And I love it. The shorter length of the game may have hurt it in the PS2 era when game length above all was a thing in some circles. But in this way, it creates a sort of single-player arcade experience, going back to the same location and revisiting it, getting to replay certain levels. If you make the Katamari big enough in some levels, you can go back without a time limit and just explore. And I will more often than not start a new file beginning to end rather than revisit levels in an old save. I enjoy having the entire experience, even playing through the tutorial level again, is, if you know what you're doing, super quick. And there have been several sequels to this game, and they do diversify the mission parameters, they expand on this delightful world of the game. The original has a very succinct charm that makes it very easy to return to. Keita Takahash very much wanted this to be a standalone game. As an artist and game designer, he likes trying out new ideas. He did work directly on the sequel, which was very much about the nature of sequels and going back to the well. And I enjoy the future games, but there's something absolutely wonderful about the encapsulated experience of the original. And when it first came out, it was sold at bargain prices. I think it was a $20 game when it first came out. It is meant to be here is it in its completeness. We're not overloading you with a glut of options. This is focused. This is designed. This is fun. And if you don't have a PS2, Katamari Damacy had a re-release in 2018 for PC and Nintendo Switch called Katamari Damacy Reroll. It is the same game, same experiences. None of the charm is lost. The blocky graphics are the exact same shape. They're just now in HD. It is a great way to experience the game nowadays if you've never played it before, or if it's been a long time since the last time you rode the Royal Rainbow, and I absolutely highly recommend it. Thank you so much for listening and joining me for this. You can find me on Twitter at Geoff, Geoff, Makes Noise. You can find me on the main Fun and Games podcast and occasionally on other shows and other certain POV shows. Please make sure to leave a like. Let us know what you think of this episode, future episodes, who you'd like to see on, or what games you'd like to hear spoken about. If you have a game you'd like to expound upon, message myself, message Matt, let us know. Thank you so much, and happy gaming.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories.
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
Blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there. So we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Geoff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.